Alright, so welcome. It is project time, and I'm going to be working on my French shawl. As you can see, I am to the lace part. I've got one repeat of the horseshoe lace done, so you can see the arrowhead kind of horseshoe it makes. And I'm on to the second one. So if you check the post, I have a few tips about lace knitting. I did work on this last week, so some of the tips are repeated from them if you missed that. But I'm reading a chart, so I'll be going back and forth between what I'm looking at and what is going on. That further out of the way. Now, if you look in the post, you'll also see a link to the shawl. It is free. It's by Jala and Jala or Jayla. If I'm saying your name wrong, I'm sorry. As soon as I know how to say it, I'll correct it. But I thought this was a pretty shawl. It's got a little bit of lace in it. It's actually got three types of lace because we've got some eyelet down here. A few eyelets you can see right there. And then it's got a mesh lace right here. And then it goes into a horseshoe here. And they have a few pieces like that, where it has several different kinds of lace involved. So that's neat. And I'm really excited to be almost done. I've got 3 repeats of the horseshoe lace total to do. And I'm on the second one now. Not quite halfway through, but almost. Let's see. There we go. Looks like I made a mistake somewhere. So one of the things I talk about is what you need to decide what you're going to do when you make mistakes, because there's really a chance that you're going to make mistakes. When I'm doing an order that is paid, I generally try to go ahead and fix the mistakes and just not have them there. Let's see, my yarn got tangled up in my stitch marker. It looks like I now have dropped a stitch. So, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to go with it. And we're going to see if I can figure out what happened. It looks like I see where the stitch got dropped now. So I'm going to fix this. And I'm probably not fixing this correctly because I know this is lace and I know there's a lot going on here at this point. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just wing it and fix it like this, as if it was just a string of knit stitches. I know it's not, though. So what we're going to do here is count gonna go. Yeah, I am seriously winging it, friend. It's okay, it happens. Let's see where that is. Okay, so that would be that. Um, some people don't care whether their lace is perfect. Some people do. I try to keep it right, but I know that perfect isn't necessarily realistic. And so I have learned to let certain mistakes be. And my answer to that is to correct them as I go and know that there is just going to be some character in the work that may be unexpected. Like, obviously, several mistakes here because I'm doing this, having to add lots of stitches. Which means this part of the lace is going to look really funky. But that's okay, right? Things happen. Yeah, I've come to the point in this project where I'm just going to accept that however it turns out, it's about to turn out. There are definitely some mistakes here. I don't know why there are mistakes here because like this repeat right here was correct. The first repeat was correct. Then 2 or 3 in the middle of those were not. I don't know what happened, but something happened, and that's okay. What probably happened is I decreased or added a stitch somewhere that wasn't supposed to be, took it away, took the wrong one away, which happens. So I actually have a class, it's called Fix Your Lace, and I haven't taken it yet, obviously, because if I had, I wouldn't be making all these mistakes, theoretically. But it's, I'll go back and I'll link it in the post. But the reality is that, unless you fix it, it is going to become very obvious, because that is the nature of lace. There's not much you can do about that. This is where learning to read your knitting comes in handy, because then you can go and see where you made the mistake, which will make fixing it or not making it again a lot easier. And the reason it's going to matter with this lace is that there's a specific pattern that's being made with the orientation of the stitches. And what's going to happen is you're going to look for the shape, and there's going to be a section where the shape is not right. And because all the other pieces will be right, it'll be super obvious. Now we're getting to a nice little tangle too. So this is a good time to take a moment and sort out your yarn, because you don't want to pull on all this. As you pull, the knot will get tighter and tighter. And it's important that you loosen versus tighten. And a lot of times what will happen when you have animal fibers like this is 100% merino. Sometimes the fuzz of the animal fiber will catch onto itself, and that's what's happened here. And you just take the time to unravel it, and then you're fine. So, the good thing about lace is often lace is done in repeats to create a pattern. So after you've done the pattern a couple times, you'll be able to probably remember it well enough to not have to constantly consult your directions, provided it's a lace that repeats. Some laces don't repeat every single section. This one happens to, so we've got the little V there. We got another little V here. And we have another mistake here. And I don't usually tink back, and tinking is just knitting backwards, unless it's a single mistake and it's something really easy to fix. One of my goals for the next year will be to take that class finally. I feel like learning to fix your mistakes is a worthwhile skill, particularly with something like lace. Generally, I let my mistakes be. Figure they're little points of character. So here we go, right? We see we have a problem here. I'm supposed to have 4 stitches left, and I have 5. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I know I was short 1 stitch here, so I will go against the grain that I usually do, and I will go back and fix this. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to undo this decrease that I did. Okay, so make sure I've got the right amount of stitches there. And we'll just knit backwards. Or that one was slipped, that wasn't knitted. One was, that was a yarn over. This one was, okay, we're going to do this. And this is a knit front and back here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let that second stitch just come right off, okay, and not worry about it. Now I'm going to very carefully take that off of there. Knit this. Oops. Now I'm going to put this back on here, and that section is now corrected. So there's going to be a little jog here, but I will have the correct amount of stitches, so that's fine. And this is why being able to count, like if you're doing a lace that repeats in sections, having the stitch markers will be helpful because you'll be able to see where the sections start and end, and be able to count between them to make sure that it has the right number. Now, I usually don't count unless I'm counting to the end of the row, but these will still come in handy because if I know there's 10 stitches per each section and I add up 10 sections, I know there's 100 stitches there. So this has the right amount. Okay. Yes, there we go. Did it? I thought it did. Well, maybe that's not right. Let's see. Now I see what I did. I knitted too many. So we'll go back and fix that. I'll fix. Because that was an honest mistake of knitting too many. So it goes knit, yarn over, knit 1, knit 2. Okay. Let's see. And I'm hoping I can finish this tonight. I'm not sure. At this point, there are no more increases. It's just knitting in pattern. But I don't know how far I will get. And I'm very tempted to do an extra repeat of this lace, but I don't know that I have enough yarn to get all the way through it, and I'm not going to do the math I need to do to figure it out. Just going to accept that I might have a little more yarn left over. while you're watching, if you have any questions, you can feel free to let me know in the comments on Patreon below. Be happy to answer any questions you have. And for those wondering, I'm using Knit Picks' Caspian needles. These are their interchangeables. I was going to use my Lakes, and I had a mishap with one of the needle tips. And I have a replacement now. The threading was not correct. And so what ended up happening is I could not screw the needle all the way onto the cable, and with something that's going to be dragging across the cable right at this join right here, that wasn't going to work. So I ended up using these instead. And I wanted to use my Legs because that's the set of needles that I have the longest cable with. And I like to stretch my lace out and in between working on it, see how it's turning out. As you can see, pardon me, all this is squinched over here, right? It's all shoved together. And that's in part because there's not enough cable here to stretch it all the way out. Usually when you do lace knitting, another little tidbit is that the needles, it will call the needle and cable size, like total length that it will call for, is not going to let you stretch the whole thing out. Generally speaking, you're going to have it to a point where it is all bunched up on there and a lot more stitches on the needles than you can see. And the only exception to that is if you're working something where it gets smaller as you work on it, which a lot of shawls are top down, so that's not how they work. So as you can see, I'm nearing the end of this row, and what I'm going to do for today, because we're already at 25 minutes now, I'm going to go ahead and finish this row. Pardon me. And then I'm going to stop the video because the backside is pretty much all pearls, as you can see, and that's super boring to watch, I think. And I don't have much to say about it. So, here we go. Let's see. Mhm. And here we go with our last lace repeat, and then our edge stitches, and we'll call it good. So thank you for sitting and stitching with me. I hope that you learned a few things. I'm going to go ahead after this video is done, edit the post on Patreon. So I'll be adding the lace fix class that I have on there, as well as the 2 versions of needles that I mentioned. Oh, sorry, a little brief interruption there. So as you can see, the lace is coming along relatively nicely. There's going to be some little blips in the lace here and there, but they'll only be for a row, hopefully. And what I will do to get this all ready, and this is after it's all done, I've bound off, I'll go ahead and block it. And blocking is something you do to lace to stretch it out so that you can see the clearly defined texture. Blocking is also used for garments and anything where you want the edges to, straighten out and be uniform and be neat. You can kind of fix some human error with blocking to a point. So there you go. A link to my project page, the pattern, and the yarn company that I used is in the post right now. I will be adding the class and 2 different kinds of knitting needles that I mentioned in this video. And I thank you for joining me. Tomorrow is the new moon, so I should be doing a lunar cast. Lunar casts are available for my $5 and up tier. So there you go. And I hope that you have a wonderful Thursday. Bye.